Welcome, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of In the Prog Seat. Favorite bands A to Z as we continue on. Last week was C. Well, we know what comes next, the letter D. So let me introduce the folks on the panel today. We got from Chicago, he is back, Mr. Louis Nasser. All the way from Scotland. We're keeping him up a little late here today. Mr. Stephen Reed. Also, the UK connection, we've got Mr. Eric Porter in our center square, Chuck Alvarez, the professor of prog, Ken Gold, and also the maker of some pretty spectacular ribs, and our other kingpin from Chicago, Mr. George Lemie, one third of For Fusion Friday. So, welcome, gentlemen. How's everybody doing today? You ready for letter D?
Fantastic, man.
Good evening.
Strong letter, weak letter. Well, I think we'll see, right?
I thought it was a strong letter, but not a lot. There was not a lot to choose from, but what was there was really good.
I have 3 and 3, man, just like last week.
Okay.
I'll make up for it.
Sounds good. I've got Chad couldn't make it today. I've got Chad's list, and Anthony couldn't make it today. Did we get a list from Anthony or no? I think so.
I think so.
We got an excuse from Anthony.
Oh yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
No, we don't. He can explain himself next week. We'll leave it.
I think you should.
And it has nothing to do with Shark Week.
Nope.
Or
Not this
Elias
week.
and Sunhillow. That's right.
Or Elias with Sunhillow.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah. All right. We're going to start off. We're going to go George. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this a little easier on me. We're going to go George, myself, Ken, Stephen, Eric, Chuck, Lewis, Chad. Well, no, you know what? I'll list Chad's after mine, and then we'll go round and round till we get to our number one. So, George, what do you got? Kick us off here today.
I didn't find D had a lot of depth. The bands, like it was said, the bands are good, but I didn't have a lot to choose from. So all the bands I have are bands I've talked about before. So this band's from Sweden, Darkwater,
Nice.
CDs. Nothing, if you're looking for someone that reinvents the wheel, it's not them. But they've maxed out certain qualities. The vocalist I think is great. The production I know is great. And the songwriting I think is next level. They're a top 5 prog metal band on the scene for me. So that sounds interesting. Looking at Darkwater. Start anywhere.
Anywhere. Cool. All right. Chad's first pick of the day is going to be from the USA, fusion guitar legend Al Di Meola. This is a great pick. So I had a little bit of a conundrum because I had 2 fusion legends. One's kind of like a jazz legend, but he also did lots of fusion stuff, maybe the godfather of fusion, and Mr. Di Meola, and I couldn't decide from which one to pick. So since Chad just picked Di Meola, I will skip Al D for today, and I'm going to go with Miles Davis with this spanking new remaster that I bought from this guy over here to my.
That was a Saturday purchase, right, Pete?
That was a Saturday purchase, yes. I wasn't going to get it because I'm like, all right, I bought Bitches Brew a couple times already, and then I was, this is fairly new, and then I look and I saw I had an extra track, and I'm like, nice packaging. I was like, all right, I'll buy it. Why not? So I'm easy. But yeah, absolute legend. Again, I'm sure a lot of Miles Davis's like late 60s, early mid 70s music had a huge influence on the fusion scene, on the prog scene, and music in general. So yeah, Miles Davis kicking it all off.
I forgot about Miles Davis. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to get my Hall of Fame out of the way quickly. I got Dream Theater. I got the Dixie Dregs, or the Dregs. I got a phone call, and I got Al Di Meola. And
Phone call.
I can't take this call. I need to take this call, but I can't take this call. Call it back. So my first real band is kind of a strange one. Band is Devil Doll.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
I was hoping you would choose them. Well done, sir.
Well, so I mean, I could go on and on about Devil Doll because I was the first dealer to bring Devil Doll product to the U.S. Wait, let me get rid of this, and then we'll do this. Let's see, guys. Wait. Fake call. Okay. So I was the first dealer. I read about Double Doll in a European record dealer's catalog, and I was intrigued, and I brought the CDs over, and blew me away. And yeah, I think I kind of helped spread the word about Double Doll in the U.S. It's a very strange band. It's kind of a mythical band. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. I know Luis is. Pete, do you know Devil Doll? Do you know much about Devil Doll?
I've listened to a little bit of Devil Doll.
Oh, Diaz Era is such a classic, dude.
So it's weird. It's like a mythical band with members from Italy and Slovenia. The band was formed by this guy Mario Pansiera, who uses the name Mr. Doctor. And what was real about the band? Nobody really knows what was really bad, what was real and what was bullshit. Most of it was bullshit. There would be stories leaking out about performances of Devil Doll performing in Slovenia, but nobody ever saw them perform live. They were signed to this label, Hurdy Gurdy Records, that had discography, all these different artists and albums, but nobody ever saw any of the albums or heard any of the music. Supposedly, there was also Devil Doll albums that were recorded and never released. The first album was supposedly called The Mark of the Beast, and only one copy was pressed. There were it's crazy. There were 5 albums that were released. First, and they were all thematic. The first one was called The Girl Who Was Death, and it was based around the British TV show The Prisoner. It was all one seamless piece of music, but it was broken up into 17 tracks because there was 17 episodes of The Prisoner. The music it's like a mix of traditional symphonic prog, Italian prog, and classical avant-garde influences. My ears, I kind of hear it as like Opus Avantra mixed with Quella Vecchia Locanda. And I mentioned that I used to speak to Mr. Doctor Mario, and I told him that one time, and he's like, told me, how insightful I was. And meanwhile, he's probably thinking to himself, what a schmuck, So by the Dies Irae was the last album, and each album got bigger and bigger and more grandiose. This one is very orchestral, very symphonic. Now, the other thing about Devil Doll, everything about this band is over the top, even the packaging. But Mr. Doctor, the way he would sing, he would use what they call Sprechgesang, which was like a cross between speaking and singing. It's very weird. It's very mysterious. And you either buy into it, you don't. And what happened was a lot of people bought into it. So there was a fan club, and this cult kind of formed around Devil Doll, and Mr. Doctor there was he was the master, like stroking the flames, bleeding out little bits of information, probably all of it bullshit. And then he supposedly got fed up, and he pulled the plug on the whole thing, and he just went back to being Mario, and he wrote this very respected book about punk rock, and that was the end of the Double Doll story. But there were 5 great albums that are unlike anything else in your record collection. And I could highly recommend each one. And Dies Irae, like I said, this was the Luis. I mean, they were crazy. They were crazy albums and fantastic records. I love them. I think it's kind of like, in a way, almost like Magma. You either love them or you hate them. And
I think Dies Irae is buy or die.
Yeah, for me, all of them were. I mean, every time there was a new Devil Doll album.
I probably got to try him again, because I remember the first time I attempted it, I was like, "What in the world is this?" And
so it was really strange, because this is back in the days when I was living in Hoboken, and we used to fax. Now, who uses a fax? I used to fax to Hurdy Gurdy Records, and I would get faxes back from supposedly his secretary, a woman named Rosanna Pistolato. It was probably him. I really don't know if there really was a Rosanna, and then he would call me from time to time. And when he would call me, he would use the same voice that he would sing with on the albums. Like it was like he was whispering. It was strange. When Laura and I went to Italy, we were trying to meet up with him, and it never happened. There was some excuse why he was supposedly in Venice or something like that. But anyway, I highly recommend them, and great stuff. Devil Doll.
I'll try him again.
Yeah,
I'll try
Love
him again.
them.
Chuck, what do you got?
I'm gonna start off with my first set of doctors. My first pick is a New York band,
Dr. Nerve.
Nerve.
Yes.
That's not for everyone, but this is amongst one of their finer works. Dr. Nerve. Area. So that Nick Dikoski and the rest of his gang, man, they're just an amazing band, man. As usual, I tend to use that quite a bit, and so, but the band is quite eclectic, man. They're not for everyone, and so, but they're one of those rock and opposition bands. And if you have ever met, I know that most people here, Ken, do you know Nick Dikoski, right?
yeah. Well, I only met Nick because Dr. Nerve opened up for McGill Manring Stevens at the Nearfest pre-show. So.
All right, but no, they're pretty good band, man.
Fantastic.
They're really.
I love Skin, that album.
Yeah, so do I. I couldn't find it, so I was like, so I just picked the next finest one.
I love Dr. Nerve. I was hoping you would pick him, so thank you.
I think I remember Steve telling me that Nick wanted his albums to sound, when they were mastered, he wanted them to sound like Pantera.
I gotta ask him about that. I was actually supposed to meet up with him 2 weeks ago, but everything going on with my wife being sick now, so we're just trying to just lay low. But I'm probably going to try to see if I can meet up with him sometime next month, and then we could just talk some more about his albums, and I'll ask him about that. But my pick once again is Dr. Nerve, man. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Cool. Eric, what do you got to start us off today?
Good evening, gentlemen. I kind of feel like what everyone said. This one was, I wouldn't have thought D was going to be difficult. And then when we got to D and I was going through the shelves, I'm like, yeah, this is tougher than I thought. There's obviously, I was able to pull out stuff that I love, but in terms of bulk or extra, not a ton. So my number 3, this could be a cheat too, but I'm going with an artist that I discovered from his band. He ended up going solo, but this guy has played with Robert Plant, Echolin, and I'm going with Francis Dunnery, and he's from It Bites. So It Bites kind of had that 80s neo, but they were very rock oriented. I love his guitar playing. He's a fantastic guitar player. His solo stuff, he got signed to Atlantic Records. So they were obviously trying to push him in terms of maybe more commercial. It is more singer-songwriter on a couple of them. And then he kind of got back to, I don't want to say prog so much, but a little more band oriented. Like I said, he worked with Echolin, and he did play Robert Plant. I'm thinking he's been with a few others, but It Bites is a cool band. So check them out, but also check out his solo stuff, Francis Dunnery.
Have you ever met Frank?
No, I've seen him play a couple times, but I never met him in person. He's an interesting guy, I've heard.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
I think I did tell my It Bites story, didn't I?
No.
You guys want to hear my It Bites story? It's a great story. So I saw, when Lauren and I, goes back to my honeymoon. When I was at the Hammersmith Odeon, Lauren and I went to see Robert Plant, and It Bites opened up, and we're watching It Bites, and I only knew the name. I didn't know much about him. And I got to tell you, Francis, man, he took on every rock star pose. And man, these guys, they were moving around the stage like they owned the joint, I mean, it was kind of funny watching them, I didn't know who they were. I turned to the guy next to me and I said, "Are these guys popular?" And he says, "Mate, I never heard of them in me life."
I think they made a little dent. They had a hit or two.
Yeah.
Calling All the Heroes was a big hit over here.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Completely misrepresented them. That was
Yeah, nothing like that.
No, they didn't do anything here.
And I told Frank about that story, and we always say the same thing. It's like, "Mate, I never heard of him in me life."
All right.
All right, cool. Steven, what do you got?
Okay, well, yes, I'm going to echo Eric because I found D to be, well, didn't have much depth really. So I'm going to start with a band called, just covering the name, Different Light. Okay, so this is a band that originally formed in Malta, of all places, in 1994, and they released one album in '96 called All About Yourself. Then they folded in '99, and the band's main man, a guy called Trevor Tabone, reformed the band 10 years later, but this time in the Czech Republic. Okay, so it's we're all over the place here. And they've released 3 albums since then. Now, this is not one for George, because this outfit are all about the softie. There's no two ways about it. That is the land that we're in here. I mean, I love a lot of AOR. We're not a million miles away here. Okay, so if you can, another name check for them, if you can imagine something like Arena, Saga, and It Bites mashed headlong into I'm Glad You're All Sitting Down, REO Speedwagon, okay, you'll end up with something along the lines of this. See, everyone's going, I really like this. Okay. It's really different, but really not at the same time. All 4 albums that the band have put out have got something to recommend if you like that kind of thing. But it's 2016's The Burden of Paradise that I think probably represents them best. There are 3 lengthy multi-part tracks on here. So it is prog, it's definitely prog. But it's definitely prog from a different direction. So yeah, Different Light is my first choice.
Okay, Different Light.
Yes.
On silence.
I've never even heard of them.
I haven't either. I'd like to hear them actually.
I'm gonna have to investigate.
Down, man.
He had me at REO Speedwagon.
I knew that was going to be the sticking point.
Hey, Eric and I are going to see REO Speedwagon tomorrow.
Be there
night.
tomorrow.
So, yeah.
Great band live too. I like
They're awesome band live.
Yeah. All right, cool. Lewis, birthday boy.
Well,
All
Gary.
right. So my number 3 is a band that I have known one of the members for many years, but I've always loved what they do. I am going to choose Jean-Claude.
Oh yeah,
and I'm using a Devouring. I love Gail.
Love
Gail
that
is a
album.
great guy. This was the first album I bought. The next time I encountered them, they were playing at Orion.
I love that album too.
They were invited to do Nearfest, and they've done a lot of records with Steve Feigenbaum. It's a great instrumental. I would say it has a little bit of the jammy Floyd of the early days, but they also do their own thing. It's really, really interesting stuff. Henry, their bass player, Henry Osborne, has a really cool tone. I like what he does. He likes a lot of that tube overdrive with his bass. They're a great band, and if you've never heard them, track number 1 on this is The Night of the Mexican Goat Sucker, also known as Chupacabras. So, come on, you just have to give it a shot. You can't go wrong. This is good stuff. So number 3, Jean-Claude. And if you're watching, Gail.
I like the cover art as well. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that weird, this picture, I don't know where they got it, but this is for guitar nerds and guitar people and tech guys, but there's a pedal made by Digitech called the Obscura Delay, and it only uses this exact skeleton as the graphic.
Wow.
I don't know why, but this is now on every Digitech pedal. So Gail, get on it.
They were great at Orion.
They were good at Nearfest too.
Yeah,
They're an interesting band. They're so hard to classify though.
they're very good though. I love them. All their records are different. I mean, you can tell it's them, but they're all different.
Yeah, it's a little space rock, a little prog rock.
Yeah, it's good stuff though. I'm a big fan. I love Jean-Claude.
If you could compare them to someone in so much, probably like a more Floydish Gong, if that's possible.
That's not a bad way of putting it. I would agree with that.
That's
It
what
is. It is. It has that. Yeah.
Before we go on to George, I do want to ask everybody watching and all here to wish Mr. Nasser a happy birthday.
Salud.
Salud.
Must be good to be 26, right?
Well, I don't remember 26, but 53 ain't too shitty.
Happy birthday, man.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you, guys.
Birthday, Luis.
Happy birthday.
At least you don't have a bandage around your head today. And
Yeah.
And no reservoir tip on my head.
Not yet. Not yet, at least.
Not yet. The night is young, though. Who knows what will happen later? I have two of the Sonas guys here. They're downstairs, so who knows, right?
over the weekend when we were at Ken's, I was chatting with Chad, and he was remarking about what a epic episode that was. And I was telling him, I said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a playlist of like the Sea of Tranquility's greatest hits and have all those episodes that are absolutely legendary. And that's got to be one of the top 3 of all time.
I think so. It was a lot of fun, man. It was. I remember you were very hesitant at first, like, really?
Didn't want to
Like,
do it.
yeah, you didn't want to do it. Like, yeah, I think it's gonna work. You know, you could always pull the plug at any time, right? You could just like yank me out, but I thought it would work.
I wanted to talk you out of it because I was like, man, dude, and you're like,
No, it want to be one of the best shows ever.
Yeah, the nurse thought it was a terrible idea.
I wanted to go the other way. I wanted to have the nurse attach electrodes to you and all kinds of
She was having none of it. I did suggest it. I said, you know, hey, how about props? She's like, listen, man, we've already gone too far with this. I'm not having anything to do with it. I'm just gonna watch you in case you collapse. I'm like, all right. There was no collapse. It was just a lot of laughter, and it helped me feel better. So thank you.
Well, that's the important thing. Yeah, that's the important. All right, back to George. Number 2. What do you got?
My number 2, I first heard, I want to say like 1985. I'm in my first original band at the time, and it's with all these dudes that I met at high school. So, and they're all new to me. So that between them and all the people that coalesced around our band, I'm meeting a lot of new people, and a lot of them I find out are into progressive music like I am. And it's kind of a drought for us because progressive metal really hasn't started, and none of us are neo-proggers. I always found it kind of limp, neo-prog. I don't really, to this day, I don't really like a lot of neo-prog.
talking to you, Steve.
We end up,
You're so definitely.
that's probably why I got so deep into metal then, because I had to have something to fill the void. But so yeah, there was one guy, my bass player. He's like a swim against the tide guy. My bass player Chris, and he kind of, you know, he wasn't along with the ride for all the proggy stuff. So imagine my surprise. I'm at his house not too long after that, and he pulls out this band that he wants to show me. It was this band, the Dregs. So I'm like, what? Yeah, what about all the stuff we've been getting into? It kind of runs the same road. And he's like, well, for him, it was like, that was kind of imperious, imposing kind of stuff. And this was housed in a more friendly package, he thought. So I scanned the records. I made a compilation tape, as a lot of people did back then. And that wasn't enough. Shortly afterwards, I, of course, got all the CDs. But yeah, the Dregs.
Amazing band, man.
Good choice. All right, Chad's number 2 from the US of A, the legendary Dream Theater. He didn't list an album, but no surprise having Dream Theater on this list. Obviously a Hall of Fame legendary band. My number 2, I'm going to echo Mr. Lemie, Dixie Dregs, absolutely. Whatever you want to call them. I have a hard time calling them anything. It's Dregs music, right? Is it fusion? Is it jazz? Is it classical? Is it country, bluegrass,
Southern rock.
blues, weird? Yeah, and the Dregs are everything and none of it. So yeah, just amazing musicians. Still to this day, I think out of all the bands I've ever seen live, one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen from a band were the Dregs. Just as far as like the sheer skill and just wow factor. I mean, you just, when you go see the Dregs, your chin's on the floor. I mean, there's just no ands if or buts about it. So yeah, Dixie Dregs, my number 2. Over to Kim.
That's What If, right?
Yes, indeed, my favorite.
I don't know why they never were actually bigger than they were.
Too eclectic.
Yeah, I think they're just
They're too demanding, man. They do too many things well.
Mhm.
You can't. They're not simple.
They never made it at least around here in the Northeast, they never made it beyond like the club level.
Yeah, but that because they were just too. They were too statistically dense for an average listener. There was a lot of. You really have to pay attention for the duration.
Too many notes.
There's no chill. You like there's a lot of work you have to do to get to the point where you hear these records and you already learned them, and now you're anticipating them, right? And now you love them. I think that's a steep climb. I agree with you. I think they should have been huge, but they were just not that easy to digest.
And kind of like George's story, they appeal to a lot of different music lovers, right? Because I mean, I remember going to see them open up for Dream Theater, and the Dream Theater crowd loved them, whether they heard them before or not. They totally went over. So a metal crowd loves the musicality of these guys.
Yeah, I saw them when they did the Scenes from a Memory tour.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
it was awesome, just awesome.
Yeah, not just the musicality, the musicianship. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it was great. All right, my number 2. I'm going to mutilate their name. I have always called this band Dizzion, but from my understanding, that's not the correct pronunciation. It's more likely something like Zion with a silent D. You guys know this band?
Nope.
They made 3 great albums. Let me see if I can get in close with this cover. Helmet Wentz cover.
Cool cover.
Yeah, I bought both of those on your recommendation, Ken.
Did you play it?
Yeah.
You didn't like them?
I haven't decided yet.
Well, you got to go back and like them.
That's a no.
Definitely. Yeah, that's
fine.
right.
I like
So
parts
far,
of it.
Pete, look, it's a free country. You're allowed to be wrong. So they made 3 albums. The first album, self-titled, was very different. They had a singer. They were more and a sax player. It was all right. It was kind of a more traditional jazz rock band, German jazz rock band. Then the bass player, Reinhard Karwacki, he got rid of everybody and he brought in Peter Giger, who was a renowned drummer, played with Albert Mangelsdorf, and a classically trained guitar player named Eddie Marin. And their second album was this one, Time Machine. And it's kind of like a cross between Guru Guru, Dance of the Flames, and King Crimson, the Bruford period Crimson. It's all instrumental, sidelong title track. Marin brought in this. He introduced this sort of ethnic element. He plays Turkish Zaz on the album. In addition to electric guitar, the sidelong piece is like fucking nutty. It's totally insane. It's great. I think this is a great album. Electric Silence is quite a bit different. They introduced Mellotron, but then Karwacki's playing a lot of acoustic double bass. Marin also starts to play sitar. There's electric guitar, but it's a little more textural. It's in the background a little bit. It's not quite. The album's not quite as frenetic.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Say hi to Tim McCaskey.
Tim,
greetings.
does he know who I'm talking about?
He knows everything. I need to tell you this. Tim is a champion of fucking trivia. He knows it all.
No, he don't know shit.
So.
You would be amazed. He might give you a spanking, Golden.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying. Don't misjudge.
well,
Just
I'm
'cause he
almost
has no
done.
hair. I mean, you have that in common with him. Just saying.
Probably. So anyway, I'm almost done here. So the closest comparison that I can make to these guys would be Embryo, and where it's that fusion of this ethnic fusion, psychedelic, krautrock, jazz rock. It all kind of coalesces. So that's my number 2. Sorry you don't like them, Pete.
Well, I'm going to keep. Again, I've only listened to it twice, so I got to keep.
You'll play it, and you're going to say to me one time, "I apologize, Ken. I listened, and you were right."
Or Ken.
Or Ken,
You're getting a
you owe
wedgie.
my money
But
back.
Ken, I love the album covers, but the rest. They made my top 3. I think that they're an unusual band and really, really strong. So Cool.
Nice.
Chuck.
All right. Mine is the proto-punk art rock band, Doctors of Madness. I've spoke about them a couple of times. This album is Late Night Movies, All Night Brainstorms. They were a huge influence on a lot of punk bands. The British punk bands of the 70s. They're a mix of Cockney Rebel meets Roxy Music meets David Bowie meets Van de Graaff Generator. Like when you listen to this band, and so you can hear how they influence bands like Ultravox and also Japan, two other influential bands from that era. And it's this album, their debut album. That's quite amazing. There's a lot of homages to like Roxy Music. They have that type of vibe, but just a little bit more punkish. And they also have a direct correlation to the punk band, British punk band, The Damned as well. My number 2, Doctors of Madness, art rock band.
All right. Eric.
So my number 2, I was introduced to this artist by my uncle. My uncle worked for Ovation Guitars for years, and this was an artist who used Ovation guitars. I remember him bringing me an album. I probably played it once and right over my head. But he's a Hall of Famer for Ken, Al Di Meola.
Mm-hmm.
And that record probably never got played again. And then probably going into college and starting to get into Return to Forever, the bigger names, and seeing his name come out again years later. I did find that album in a pile somewhere, but like I said, it probably got played once or twice at the time. Didn't connect with me then. I was a kid. It was Kiss and Aerosmith and all that stuff. So it just, right over. But I love Al's early stuff, obviously his stuff with Return to Forever. So that is my number 2.
How cool is it just to find like an Al Di Meola album in a pile,
Right.
right? It's like the greatest gift ever. It's like, woo, I bought this, never listened to it. Now it's like,
But it was not appreciated at the time.
Wow.
better late than never.
True.
All right, back to Stephen.
Okay, so my number 2 is a band called Chord or Chord, a Norwegian band. Released 3 albums between 2009 and 2013. Appear to have disappeared since then. The band's self-titled debut, it's kind of Yes influenced, Floyd influenced, Genesis influenced, but there's a kind of a heavier aspect, a bit of maybe kind of Deep Purple running through it as well, which I like. It's a good combination. By the time they get to 3, which is this album, that concoction's kind of gone the other way around, and I really quite like that. I always kind of think it's a bit as if like Wobbler had a fixation with, say, Jethro Tull and Eli Uriah Heep, then you would end up with something like this. They're one of those kind of bands that they took great care to record in an analog setting, so it sounds very vintage. It sounds of a time way before they were actually recording, which I like as well. And the 2-part closer on cool artwork on this album, which is Mon Sat. I presume it's Monday to Saturday, but I don't know. Parts 1 and 2 are amongst kind of the best examples of what they do. And it's a real shame that they just appear to have disappeared since this album. So yes, Chord is my second choice.
Never even heard of them. That
That's
sounds.
D with apostrophe, right?
Yes, yeah.
I remember them. I don't know if I've heard that one though. I've heard
This
one.
is my favorite of the 3. The second album, which I forget the name of, they tried to experiment a bit more, and it didn't seem to kind of work. Not for me anyway, not so much. And then they came back to their kind of signature sound with this one, and is a little bit heavier than the debut. I think this is right up your street, Peter, actually.
Okay.
And I really like this. It's really good, really strong. One of those bands that you just think, please come back, please do something. But it's a long time.
I'm positive I heard the first album and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, the first album was self-titled.
Were they on Apollon?
Oh, that's a good Charisma.
Charisma and Apollon are the same.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah,
Cool.
really good. Plays a lot.
Lewis.
Okay, my number 2 choice is a band from Italy I have been lucky enough to watch them play live on 4 different occasions. I've also been extremely lucky to have been able to really get to know them a little bit better. And in particular, their singer, Alberto Pires, is a fantastic human being. And he is one of the best humans you could ever hope to meet for the purpose of partying, in addition to just listening to music. I am speaking, of course, of Italian band that sings in Latin, Deus Ex Machina. And as an example of their brilliance, I present to you this collection in Paris, which has a live DVD and a studio record. These guys are fantastic. I know they had some issues with a previous label, not with Steve, but the one before, and their old catalog, and it's all a mess. If you can find those records, buy them without hesitation. There you go. Just buy them. Just buy them. It is one of the best bands that came out in the 90s, in my opinion. And they're just phenomenal. You know, everything they do is just so musical and so well put together. Plus, they also use a lot of violin as a main instrument.
Nice.
I forget the name of their violin player. I could read it, but I don't want to read it. It just seems rude.
Did they play Nearfest, Lewis?
They did.
Yes, they played Nearfest. They played Baja. They played Prog Day, and they also played Orion.
Yeah, they played Orion. Yeah.
My favorite story has to do with their show at Orion. Orion Studios, for people who don't know, is a magical place in Baltimore. It's one of those places where, you know, the owner just decided, I'm going to create the space, and I don't want music to die alone and unheard. This is a space for music to exist. And there's been all kinds of bands that play through there, local US bands, international bands, you name it. Deus Ex Machina were among the bands who played there. And Orion Studios is not located in the best part of Baltimore itself, not the greatest city in America, although I love it to bits, but you know, it has its you know, drawbacks. There was a place nearby called Pollock Johnny's. And it was well known that Pollock Johnny's was not going to do any favors to your digestive tract. So when they were wondering where to eat their dinner, Mike Potter, who was the owner and a good friend, if you're watching, Mike, told them, whatever you do, don't eat at Pollock Johnny's. Which was another way of saying, please go see what happens if you eat at Pollock Johnny's. So Alberto, of course, went to Pollock Johnny's. Comes back, does the show. They come to like a break, and he runs off the stage. And he comes back, and then he runs again, and he comes back, and he goes, aha, Pollock Johnny, strike again. So, you know, I love Alberto. I love the band. They're phenomenal, and I can't wait for their next album. Whenever Devoto was the last thing that I know that they released on. But whenever the next one is, I can't wait for it. I'm a big fan, and I love this band. So Deus Ex Machina, Italian prog. Come on, right?
They tore up the stage at Nearfest, man. They were like, yeah.
They're so good. You know, they're just so good.
Good stuff.
And they're fun people too to hang. You know, the hang with them is great, also, which is important. Like, because, you know, you can see guys are great, but then you meet them and you're like, yeah, you're such a dick. These guys are fantastic. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, George, number one.
Number one goes back to 1989. Still in that space where I'm looking for progressive stuff. And probably I'd exhausted all the 70s fusion I could mine, and it's probably filling the void with Shrapnel records, you know, all the shred scene. We were big into that. But then I'm in the record store on a Saturday afternoon and looking through the magazines, looking through the ads. And there's a full page ad for a band for fans of Rush and Queensryche. So I picked up the Dream Theater debut, which I didn't pull out because no one needs to see that cover. So I pulled this one out. Yeah, for us, it just hit the spot. It was like Yes meets Metallica. It had the proggy elements and the heavy stuff, and with apologies to Fates Warning fanboys and Watchtower guys, they crystallized what everybody would go on to do. There's not many Watchtower or Fates Warning clones, but there's tons of Dream Theater imitators. A lot of them not so good, but they got a lot of bands signed that were never going to get signed without their influence. And yeah, I don't love all the albums. There's some that I consider mediocre. Falling into Infinity, The Astonishing, Octavarium. I'm not big on those, but by and large, I'm always interested because they have the potential to pull one out of the hat at any time. And especially the last one I thought was a real good return to form. So no way I was going to say anybody but Dream Theater.
That is, in my opinion, their best one.
Same here. Love that album.
Yep.
Saw them for that too. The only time I saw them was for that tour, and they were fantastic.
Ridiculously brilliant.
They really were, man.
Yeah.
And whoever it was that put that advert together should live safe in the knowledge that it sold at least 2 copies of the debut album, because that advert was in Kerrang here in the UK, and I bought the album on that strength as well.
You remember that ad, huh?
Yeah. Do indeed.
All right, Chad's number 1 is a band from Italy, another band that played at Nearfest, and I also think this band is quite good as well. DFA.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is from the Nearfest show.
Yep.
That was on my HMs.
Yep. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Great Italian band. Very energetic. Hit all the spots. And I forget how many albums they had. What, 3, 4?
Yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4. Lavorian Corsum. I forget. Yeah, they're not that many.
Yeah.
They're good though.
Then the keyboard player died. The keyboard player.
Somebody was lost. I think that this is a band like Deus Ex Machina that you really do need to give their albums a good 8 to 10 listens before you really, for me at least, maybe I'm just born stupid, but I need a number of listens to really absorb it, and then it hits. It really hits.
Yep. Yeah, good band. Good choice. My number 1, like George, was like a no-brainer. It was always going to be Dream Theater. And I think most of us can remember the first time we ever heard Dream Theater. And I remember I had graduated from college, but of course, silly me, after graduating college, couldn't get enough of college life. So like every weekend I went back to college to visit my buddies. And I had most of my friends were either from the city or from Long Island. So one of my Long Island friends, I go up there and he's like, "Oh, have you heard this band?" And he pulls out the first album, and I'm like, "No, who are they all about?" He goes, "Oh, they're kind of like a heavier Rush, but with like Queensryche and Fates Warning, all kind of like interspersed in there." So he played it for me, and I was like, "Wow, that's great." Not nuts about the singer, but man, it's great. And then I didn't hear another thing about him for, I don't know, a year. And then one day I was, this is again, a few years after college, and I was living home with my parents for a few months in between places and things. And I'm getting out of the shower one day and I'm listening to Z-Rock. If you guys remember that metal station, that syndicated metal station. And I hear this song on the radio. I'm like, wow, what is that? Is that like a new Fates Warning song or something? And then afterwards they say that's the brand new song from Dream Theater, Pull Me Under, from Images and Words. And that was it. Yep. I was hooked from then on. I've seen them on every single tour they've ever done. I've seen them more than any other band. And like George, I'm not 100% on all of their albums, but I think truly the only one I really don't like is The Astonishing, because I find lots to love on most of the other ones. But yeah, my favorite is Metropolis 2, Scenes from a Memory. It's probably not even close, but Images and Words is amazing. And
Awake
is great. And Transport I love. And
people hate Falling into Infinity. I like some parts of that record.
I do.
I think that's a testament to their.
Yeah,
I think it's a testament to their strength.
Yep, it's held up pretty good. There are a couple really, really good songs on there. There's some stuff I'm still not into, but it's not as terrible as I used to make it out to be. But yeah, so that's my number 1. Ken, what do you got?
All right. So I'm just surprised that nobody else picked this one, my number 1. And this one was close to being a Desert Island disc for me. So this is probably the best album that Traffic never recorded. Brian Davison's Every Which Way.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
You guys know this album?
I know that album.
Okay.
Never heard
So
of it.
Brian Davison was the drummer in the Nice.
Mhm.
And after the Nice broke up, he put together a new band, and he didn't do a band that was like the Nice or ELP or anything like that. He went in a totally different direction. The band he brought in Graham Bell as vocalist. Graham Bell was in Bell and Arc,
Mhm.
and the rest of the guys, a guitar player who was just kind of like a one and done, John Headley, beautiful guitar playing. I don't know anything about him. And you got this guy, Jeffrey Peach. He basically takes on the role of Chris Wood, the analogous to Chris Wood's role in Traffic. He's playing sax and flute. Alan Cartwright's on bass. He went on to play with Procol Harum for years.
Yep.
It's a great record that just happens to sound just like classic Traffic. I mean, if you like Low Spark of High Heel Boys, this album's going to fuck you up really bad because you'd swear you were listening to outtakes.
Mhm.
Not much in the way of keyboards. Bell's a great singer. He happens to sound a lot like Stevie Winwood. It's just this beautiful album. What's interesting is Davison's wife. Davison didn't write any of the music. His wife wrote the opening song, and she co-wrote one of the tunes with Graham Bell. Progressive. I could see, some nice long tracks on it. Just to me, Traffic is a prog band, and in the same way, I think of this as a prog album. This is a U.S. copy. Great sounding album. I think it was cut by Gilbert Kong for Mercury Records, released on, I think, B&C Charisma in the UK. And what's weird is that for the European and the US releases, they switched sides. So side one is side two on the European and vice versa. You can find these used frequently. And I whenever I see them, I buy them, I give them away as gifts. So because it's just one of those albums that, who doesn't like Traffic? And then you play, everybody loves Traffic, and you play them this album, they're like, what the hell is it? Great record. So Brian Davison's Every Which Way. It was reissued. It's gotten a couple of reissues. Esoteric did it, and I think Longhair may have done it from Germany. So,
Investigate.
CZ copies are floating around. Yeah, it's just great. This guy Headley. The only thing I can tell is that he played with Sting in like a precursor to the Police, but that's about it. But just really beautiful, soulful guitar. You got flute throughout, some sax. Yeah, and like I said, he sounds like Winwood. I mean, sounds like a Traffic album, just like it.
Cool.
That's my number one.
All right. Chuck.
Well, which are just like everyone else here, so everyone should know who my number one is. Being a big jazz fan that I am, and so it's always going to be Miles Davis. And I also picked Bitches Brew because it's the album that was the spark for most of the jazz rock bands that came out. Most of the members that played on these sessions went on to go and do fantastic stuff in the jazz rock fusion world. But it's always going to be Miles Davis, man. He's one of my top 5 entertainers of all time. And when it came to this, as far as D goes, he will always be my number one. Miles Davis. Mm-hmm.
It's all about Miles.
Mm-hmm.
Eric.
So my number one, it's been mentioned, but to me, this was a band that, for a lot of this stuff, when I started getting into it, I think Lewis might have said how, this stuff takes time sometimes to sink in. It doesn't always connect with you. And I'm going with the Dregs. This was a band that connected with me right away.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the country stuff. And I think the first one I had was Night of the Living Dregs.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of if it was country, if it was rock, whatever they were doing, I just dug them and could listen to them all the way through. There was a connection there that a lot of this other stuff, like you were saying, Lewis, it takes time to sink in. I've always enjoyed the Dregs. I don't think there's anything bad they've ever done. And obviously Morris continued with Steve Morris Band and everything else, but
honestly though, do you not find maybe that now you like him a little bit better than you did at first?
You know what? I mean, I do.
Maybe,
I
right?
I listen to them a lot, and I've had those for years. But that was a band that I remember right away. Like
you dig it, but then you like you start to like discover like an onion, right? There's all these like mystery layers. It's really, really gratifying when that happens. For me, I'm just speaking for myself. I just love when that happens, you know, when you keep discovering new treasures in the same record, right? Yeah.
It's a great band.
Oh yeah.
Stephen, you're number one.
Okay, so my number one is a band I spoke about not too long ago. This is Die Expis, who are an English, and just for George, neo-prog band, who have released only 2 studio albums to date. They are still on the go, but it doesn't really appear to be producing very much from them in recent times. The 2 studio albums, Halfway Home from 2008, which is probably regarded as the best of the 2, but my own personal favourite is King of Number 33 from 2011, which features Mark Kelly of Marillion on keyboards, not on all the songs, but on the majority of them. The title track on this is a 27-minute multi-part epic that's based on a true story of an eccentric who used to, all day, every day, ride on the number 33 bus around the area of Weardale. And the lyrics basically come across, he believes he is the king of this particular vehicle. And it's just a story that runs from there. It's complete nonsense, but it's great nonsense. It's insightful towards the human condition, I would suggest, but also very respectful of the chap that is there. I mean, he's depicted here like this. So it's quite reverential in that sense.
Is that Batman? Looks like Batman.
No, he's
like a soldier.
It's a knight.
He looks like King Arthur.
It's okay. All
yeah.
Right.
And you see on the inside that he is standing waiting on the bus with the band. Mark Kelly hidden in the back here. I just think this is a great album, and it just went under the radar, and it really shouldn't have done. So my number one for D is Die Expis.
Cool. All right, birthday boy, what do you got for number one?
My number one could be nothing else. I have talked about these guys before. I am an unabashed fanboy from the very first time I heard them. I am going to give it to Discipline.
There you go.
And of course, Unfolded Like Staircase.
Mm-hmm.
I stand by this. This is one of the best records anybody's ever made. I don't give a shit what decade, what genre. This is a great record. And this was a constant of my soundtrack for almost 12 years. I played that every single week, at least once or twice. Mm-hmm. And I still do when they re-released this thing and the remix. Like we were talking before, in this case, literally there was shit that had been mixed out from the original. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you realize existed in these tracks. So I love this record. I think this is without a doubt the best thing they've done. They've always done good things. Mm-hmm. Discipline. They have I believe 5 studio albums. I know Ken put out their one of their latest ones. Check them out. Matthew Parmenter's got a couple of solo records. Yep. That is a great album. Yep. Mm-hmm. Captives of the Red Wine Sea, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
Wine Dark Sea. Captives of the
yes. I love that band. I cannot be 100% impartial because they're my friends. We have toured together. I have a personal relationship with them, but I loved them before that was true. Mm-hmm. And I would highly recommend people give their albums a shot.
Oh, especially that album. Oh,
it's so good. It's just so good. And and Matthew Parmenter in particular is one of the nicest guys you could be. Plus, he is, and he's gonna hate me for saying this, but he really is a genius. Mm-hmm. He is a fucking genius. And
22.
And Kennedy and Paul, everybody, and now of course Heron from Tiles is now their guitar player. Mm-hmm. So everybody there, they're just my friends, and I'm always happy to see them doing well. And I think that if you like prog rock at all, and you don't have this in your collection, that's kind of like one of those nightmares when you're walking around downtown and you realize you're not wearing pants or underwear. There is something important missing.
That hasn't happened to me, Louis. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, but it happens while I'm awake, and it's not really a nightmare. People are afraid, but I am not. But this, though, I think people should get. This is a really wonderful, wonderful record. So, Discipline and Fall Like Staircase. That's my number one.
Here I am in limbo.
Fucking A.
Does anybody doubt that by the end of tonight, this is his birthday, does anybody doubt by the end of tonight his head's going to be wrapped in bandages?
I know for a fact it won't be. But there may be some questionable decisions and some antisocial behavior for sure.
Any malort?
Oh
No, my lord. I have been a good boy. I haven't fucked up on stage. I did 5 weeks in Chile. No malorts.
Okay.
So I'm good. I'm good so far. I knock on wood. I want to keep that streak alive. I plan to go to Poughkeepsie in October and have earn no malorts. But I'm bringing a bottle just in case because I am a man of my word.
Oh man.
And some people are gonna have to, depending on what happens in the panels, they may get malorted because that's just the nature of the game. So
Be afraid.
yourselves.
Be very, very afraid.
Nobody looked happy about that, Louis.
You'll be happier once you've had it.
For the first time, I'm pleased that I won't be there.
I can always just fly a bottle to Scotland, you know.
I don't know if we need Malort in our lives at 12:30 in the afternoon.
No, we would have to really fuck up to earn it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
You know.
George, you got any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I got 3. Got to represent Chicago band and Laser's Edge band, District 97.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
4 albums, really good vocal melodies. My issue with them is they need a big time producer. These records, they're good writing, but the sound is usually just there. Get a good
Can you say that again, please?
What's that?
Say that again, George. Say it again. I want Shank to hear that. Say it again, please.
You need a big time sound, guys. It's mediocre production. You got to get boom sound.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
my opinion. I don't know.
I tried.
Proceed.
Druckfarben from Canada,
Nice.
3 albums, very Yes-like,
Yep.
but not cloney. It just got that sound of old Yes. And Virgil Donati, Australian drummer, highly progressive stuff, bordering on fusion. Edged out Demiola for my last spot because I just couldn't ignore like the decades of albums that I don't care about from Alan. Whereas when Virgil puts something out, I'm always interested to look into it. This, one of the best metal instrumental discs I've ever.
What is that called, George?
In This Life.
I'm gonna get that. I don't have that.
You will love this, I guarantee it.
In
Is
this
that on his
life.
own label?
Yep.
I'm gonna get that.
Who else plays on that, George?
McCosick, Anthony Crawford, Ruslan Sirota, just a ton of dudes, really. Marcos Fogli, bunch of guys on there.
No, Mowgli's great. Cool. All right, Chad's honorables are Discipline, Dixie Dregs, Jam Carrey, Deus Ex Machina, and Diagonal from the UK. I'm not familiar with Diagonal, I don't think.
Oh, Diagonal. They're a great band.
Yeah.
New band. New English band.
Okay. All right, so my honorables, I'm just going to mention ones that have not been mentioned already. How about the Italian band Daemonia?
Yes.
It's really like an offshoot of Goblin.
The Goblin. Yep. Mhm.
Really good, a little heavier. I like them quite a bit. Magna Carta band, Dolly's Dilemma.
Oh.
I love Dolly's Dilemma. That's a great choice.
They were
Yeah,
good.
really good band, right?
That was Matt Gullery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A band I believe are from Switzerland, a band called Dice.
Yep.
That's really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Wait, which DICE or DEYSS?
DICE.
Oh, they were Swedish.
Oh, Swedish. Okay, I knew they were from there somewhere. Mellotron band, Deadwood Forest. I think they only ever did one album.
One
Yeah,
album.
one album. Let's see who else has not been mentioned here. Dragonfly, also I think were Swedish or Swiss.
Swiss, I think.
They were Swiss. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Druid.
Yeah.
Like Yes, they sound like classic Yes.
Wait a second.
Here we go.
Mhm.
A great cover.
They were, yeah. I mean,
Cover.
this was like they wrote it with tracing paper. I mean, it sounds just like Yes.
Yeah.
They had 2 albums.
Yep, 2 albums, 2 really good ones too. And last but not least, I figured I could include them here because a lot of their latter period stuff, even though it's brutally heavy, is really technical and progressive. The band Death, Chuck Schuldiner and company. There you go, Louis.
Yes.
Individual thought patterns, symbolic, man, you know, any of those Human, any of those latter period albums are just absolutely amazing. And that's as progressive as it gets when it comes to extreme.
It is. It really is. It's so good.
Yeah.
I love everything they did with Steve DiGiorgio on bass. It's just so good.
Yeah, he's such a great player.
Yeah. It just, yeah, I agree.
Gene Hoglan on drums.
Yes.
Yeah. Or even when Richard Christie played with them. I mean, it's just like, he's great too. So, all right, Ken, what do you got for honorables?
I got a lot of honorables. I'll run through them quick. D.D. Lind from Italy, one of the great symphonic prog bands in the 70s, one and done band. Great Italian band that had 3 albums, Delirium.
Oh yeah.
This is their 3rd album. Really, one of those bands that I never paid enough attention to. And then when I finally got an original, I went back and listened. And man, these guys were fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great album.
You know, it's funny. We're coming up with all these, and we're saying how there weren't that many to choose from, and everybody's coming up with stuff that either I forgot about, or crossed my mind, or made an honorable mention. So, this one is a bit obscure. They're a one and done band. Demon Fuzz. Africa.
I love that record. That record is great. I got that from you. That is awesome.
It's great, isn't it? It's kind of like progressive horn rock, right?
It's great. It's just great.
Yeah. I had terrible seller's remorse. I had an original copy of it. And I sold it years ago. I'm stupid. Now I can't afford a new one. One that George, I left this for you, George. I thought this was going to be one of yours.
You said you were going to say it.
Well, no, from Macedonia, and this is an album definitely should be reissued. Den Zaden, just George, help me. I mean, just blazing fusion, right?
Yeah,
just like incredible. So, and never came out on CD, not even as a bootleg, right? I had, who else did I have on my list? Deus Ex Machina, we talked about. DFA, we talked about. Another one of my bands I did 2 albums with, Diablo Swing Orchestra.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Oh man,
That's a good one.
Great
Phenomenal band.
I forgot about that one.
Not quite the same with the singer that replaced Anna Lucy, but still a very, very clever, inventive band. I also had Discipline from Australia, band that made a couple of albums. Dragon, Scented Gardens for the Blind, symphonic mellotron band.
Yep.
Band from Denmark that made 2 great Zappa-like albums, Dr. Dopo Jam. And I picked this one because I know Luis likes to see penis. So there's you can see
Everybody likes to see penis.
So, I did that for him. And I did this for Nick. Nick, if you're watching, I know you're the king of the box set. George Duke.
Ah, yeah.
The Era Will Prevail. Look at this bad boy.
Wow.
This is all 6 albums. These are all of his MPS albums. And I wouldn't pick any one particular album because he when he was recording for MPS, he put out 6 great records. And he has Zappa playing on one of them. And so kind of like we were picking Al Di Meola, kind of hard to pick one particular record when there were so many to choose from. George Duke, Era Will Prevail.
Nick will scour the state of Michigan over the next couple of days.
Absolutely, Nick.
I'll have a copy of that on the Curse of the Collector on Saturday. Watch.
Yeah, Nick, if you're watching, I think you're watching.
Get on it.
The Era Will Prevail. And that's what I got.
All right, cool. Chuck.
Well, Di Viola,
There you go.
Discipline,
There you go.
DFA, Jean Carrey. What's that? The Live at Orion, still one of my favorite albums.
I was at that show. It was so fun, dude.
Oh man, what a great album, man! You can imagine the fire with that band, man. And
They
then
were great.
I'm gonna give one of our buddies some play right now.
Oh, the Devil's Staircase. That is so sweet. Thank you.
Pretty damn good, man. I like it, man.
They could use a good bass player.
It could. It really could. And a better writer.
You use a good bass player.
But everybody else is great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Those are my picks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Lewis, I think I've seen you drink like 3 different things during this hour we've been talking here.
Oh, I am drinking more than 3 things.
That head's getting wrapped.
This. No, I'm not there yet. I have an inhuman tolerance for alcohol. It's going to take a while. This is a Carmenere wine from Chile.
Ah,
I discovered this is a really good grape for wine, and I really enjoy it. So I'm drinking that. But my 2 honorable I had 3 honorable mentions. 2 have already been mentioned. It's of course Death. You can really get any, especially their last 3 records for prog fans. I think are where you would start. And DFA that was mentioned. But one band that nobody mentioned that I really enjoy is Dead Soul Tribe.
oh, okay.
This particular album I have a soft spot for. It's called A Lullaby for the Devil. They did quite a few for Inside Out, like 4 albums, I believe. They're all quite good. If you like heavier proggy stuff, you might really like these guys. The singer is very good. This particular Devin Graves, yeah, and this particular one has him playing a lot of flute as well.
This reminds me like a little bit of Tull.
Yeah, this is like a heavier, Tull at their heaviest, I would say, and without all the complexities of Ian Anderson's brain. But it's very good. So, Dead Soul Tribe would be my only remaining one.
Cool. Eric.
Mine have all been mentioned, but I had Discipline, I have Miles Davis, and probably my only, as I talk to George all the time, progressive metal band, and I got one of the ones Sharinian's on Dream Theater. So
Oh yeah, Change of Season.
It's a great album, Change of Seasons.
that was my first, and I think I bought it because of the covers, get a feel for that, and then get into that one. So what is it, the 25-minute Change of Seasons? So that was my first dip in the Dream Theater.
Great song.
Yeah.
You ever see them play it live?
No, I've only
did.
seen them once live, so and wasn't that
Oh, okay.
nice.
I'm not up there with Pete, but I've probably seen Dream Theater like 12 or 13 times. And it's when they played that live, that was impressive.
You know where I saw them play that live the first time?
Radio City.
Nope.
Roseland.
Nope.
I don't know.
Old Bridge, New Jersey.
Nope. The Chance of Poughkeepsie, New York.
Nice.
Version?
I saw them play it at this bar in Virginia. It was a small venue in Virginia where they used to tour, and they just that was their closer, and it was unbelievable.
Come on, Steven, you got to do it. I know Simon's watching. So what does Simon do whenever I ask him to say that?
It's the Chance of Poughkeepsie.
All right, in fairness to us Americans, we don't really give a shit anymore. I love Simon to death, but it is in New York, and we want to call it Poughkeepsie or Poughkeepsie or what the fuck? It's okay.
Poughkeepsie.
No, I just thought of a band that George, I'm surprised you didn't mention, Dan the Machine.
I was thinking of them. Good one and done.
I saw them. I don't remember a thing about them. I saw them open for Dream Theater.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about their music. I think I probably have the CD.
You remember that's Chris Poland's band, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Chris Poland,
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw Dream Theater.
On A&M Records. I mean,
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. All right, Steven, close us out. We got any honorables?
I don't have many left, no, because they've basically been taken. I had Dream Theater, I had The Devil's Staircase. Miles Davis, I brought a different Dixie Dregs album because I really like the cover.
Oh,
Really like that one. Only thing I've got that's not been mentioned is a chap called Stephen Duros. And the album is called, I will murder this pronunciation, but I think it is just Aer. It's a mythical Greek island that Circe lived on.
What is he? Who's the artist, Stephen?
Stephen Duros, Duros.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
It's acoustic-driven, kind of progressive world music.
Sounds great.
Really kind of challenges the senses. It's remarkably claustrophobic, but it's very natural and it's very flowing. Took me a while to get into it, to be fair, but I really do like it. Stephen Duros. And that's me.
And I know there's probably going to be some viewers watching this. They're going to be like, Pete, I can't believe you didn't pick Deep Purple tonight. I don't think Deep Purple's a prog band.
No.
Yeah.
Love them, and maybe they've had some moments, but
I debated whether I should include In Rock, even though it's not a prog band. It is at a prog album. It's so fucking good.
It's so heavy, though.
It deserves a little love.
Oh, it deserves a lot of love. Yeah.
Live in Japan. Live in Japan. Mm-hmm.
That was my first album by Deep Purple, In Rock.
Oh, what a fantastic live album.
The best.
I know I'm looking forward to pissing off a few folks with my picks.
That's what you do, Chuck, right?
I love it.
All right, everybody, there you have it. The letter D. You know what comes next? Although I think fairly soon, maybe after E, I think we're going to take a week break and do another topic before we get back into F. So E will come next week. Then we'll do another topic break, and then we'll come back to the alphabet once again. We're going to kind of do that over the next couple of months. We'll intersperse some regular theme shows in between the alphabet stuff. And thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together.
All the damn time.
That's right. And please click on that like button. Okay. It's very, very important that if you're watching this video, click the like button so YouTube does their thing and sends out this video into the stratosphere through their algorithm to reach people that we're not currently reaching. That's the important thing. So we want to keep growing the channel. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get notified of all of our content as it posts. We've also got the links below down there underneath Lewis. Ooh, underneath Lewis. I don't know about that. That doesn't sound too good. We've got the links down there for our Ko-Fi page.
Maybe it sounds real good. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know. But
ain't clicking on anything down there.
Yeah, I don't know. But down there, you'll see the link to that wonderful shirt that George is wearing, plus a lot of other different ones. So go check those out. Look at that wonderful Dragonfly. And for Louis Nasser, the birthday boy, Stephen Reed, Eric Porter, Chuck Alvarez, Ken Golden, and George Lemie, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody from In the Prog Seat. We'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.
Hello. Good night.